I think a few people posted things in the chat. So Word is, you know, word processing software. When I started out in the consulting business, we wrote everything out longhand, and then we gave it to a typist who typed it up. And if we had a good typist, the typist could type 120 words a minute and fix our grammar and spelling. Now we have to type ourselves, but Word will help us with the grammar and spelling. So it's great to figure out all the things it can do. And we'll just be dealing with the basics today. But we've got this sample letter. Obviously, anything you write, you can write in Word. Letters, resumes, invitations, reports, you know, schoolwork. And it's relatively straightforward. So the first thing normally we'd want to do is open a document. And so just for a little orientation, at the top of the Word panel, you can see there are some menus, some words that denote menus. So Sarah's pointing to the File menu, then going to the right, there's Home, which has a lot of useful stuff, Insert, Layout, References, and View, which we just used to change the size of the picture. So those menus are what we use to give instructions, but I'll tell you that most of what you do in Word or any of the Microsoft products, there's usually 3 different ways to do anything. You can use the menus, you can right-click on your mouse and it will bring up a menu. Or Sarah, why don't you just put your mouse over the text somewhere and right-click?
Okay, click here.
Yeah, and you see it brings up a little menu that will help you do stuff. Or there are also keyboard shortcuts where you can just type some letters, usually maybe a control something, and it will do stuff. And I started using computers before we had mouses, so I tend to use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, but you can use whatever works for you or a combination. So anyway, normally the first thing we would do would be to open a new or an existing document. So we'd go over to the File menu and click on the File menu. And you can see on the left side, you've got some choices: New, Open, Save, etc. Let's just click New for a second. And you can see you can choose a blank document, and there's some documents that have different built-in styles if you want to try something. So that's how you would open a new document. For now, we don't have to worry about that. Now, if you want to open an existing document, you go down to the Open item, and that's where you can see right there is the Word Basics example letter. Sarah just opened that to bring up the document we're looking at. So let's go back and go back up to the arrow and bring back to the document. The other important thing is to know how to save a document, and you want to save a lot because things happen, and if you haven't saved in a while, then you'll lose what you were working on. Sarah, can I ask you one question? How long did this class go?
Till 7:30. I mean, till 7. I'm sorry. Sorry, everyone.
7. Okay.
So I just want to let you guys know I'm in Windows 10. So if your Windows looks, I'm sorry, Word 10, if yours looks a little different, it could be you have a different version. And also you'll see where mine says saved. It's because I'm signed into the county's OneDrive account, so it's doing automatic saves. But unless you're using some sort of like work network, you're not going to have an automatic save scenario going on. So I definitely agree with Joel, like save often, just in case. Sorry.
Right. And so, hold on, I'm just going to make sure I'm plugged in here. So you can save back at that File menu. You can also use a keyboard command, Control-S, is what I use. So you type the control key and the S key at the same time, and that will save. And it's super easy. And if you get into the habit, kind of every time I stop to think or take a breath or stare out the window, I just automatically do a control S, and it's saved, and I don't have to worry about it. So, so that's a great way to make sure that you're saving what you're doing. So let's try out some different things now. Just moving around the document, you can use your cursor to move around wherever you want to go and click, like maybe click right before Dear Mom, and or you can look down to the bottom of to the beginning of the next paragraph and click there. There are also keyboard commands that you can use. Sorry for the background noise. If you do control right arrow, it'll move you to the next word, or control N will take you to the end of where of your paragraph, or sorry,
Whoops.
your document.
Nope, not on mine.
Okay. All right, we'll skip that part.
Hold on. Nope, I don't know. That's weird.
Mostly, we tend to use the cursor. The other thing is you can highlight text. So you can highlight a word like that one, yeah. And then notice that little menu popped up. If you right click,
hold on, sorry.
Highlight the word and right click, then the menu comes up, and now it'll change whatever you have highlighted. So if you clicked on the V there, it would bold that word. Yeah, so it bolded that word, and then you could, and now you could use a keyboard command, Control V, to unbold it.
Control V?
V is in bold.
Oh, sorry.
So again, there are different ways to do, any particular thing, and you can use whichever one is helpful. So we know how to move around the document. If you have a scroll ball on your mouse, you can also scroll up and down through the document to get to different places. Yeah, so there you go. So now let's try to clean up this letter here a little bit. You can see we have the date at the top and then the greeting, and we need to space that out. So let's click in front of Dear and hit Enter. And when you hit Enter, it's what we used to call in a typewriter a carriage return. It's gonna return back to the next line. And we can go in front of it and do another one. And so now we're starting to get this into shape. Now, when you hit a return, we'll talk about this later, it will go down to the next line, but you can see here it's putting in an extra space before every paragraph or after every return. And you can change how that works, and we'll talk about that later. And you can also change the spacing of the lines. So again, one important thing to remember is in order to change anything in Word or in any of the Microsoft and Excel, same thing, you have to select it first. So you want to use your cursor to start at the place where you want to start selecting, let's say, Dear Mom, and then hold down your left mouse button and drag it over to select it. And so that's how we select text. Now, in the typewriter days, sometimes we mess something up. Instead of retyping the whole paper, we would just type up one paragraph, cut it out with a pair of scissors, and then paste it where we wanted it. And so we still have cut and paste or copy and paste in our digital versions. So if we wanted to move switch these paragraphs, we could select the first paragraph. So go to the beginning of it, and then we could go to the home menu. Did you click on it? I'm not seeing it open.
Yeah, it's home. But I think you mean this, right?
There we go. And so you see there it has cut, copy, and paste. So let's click cut. And you see it took it out. And now let's click down below. And we can go to the home menu again and click paste.
Oops. It's my very special version. Sorry.
So you see we cut it and we pasted it in a different place. And now here's a super important thing, because the letter doesn't make any sense now. So it was an interesting demonstration, but we really don't want it this way. We want to undo it. So if you make a lot of mistakes like I do, this is a super important thing. To undo whatever you just did, you type Control Z. Control Z to undo. And so we undid the paste and now do it again. And we undid the cut. So you can go back several steps using the Control Z undo. That's a super important thing to know. Now, so
hey,
that's
folks,
cut.
I'm sorry, Joel. I just wanted to make sure people know to go ahead and ask questions if you want to. And I just realized this is my web version. Let me open the, that was the problem. Oh, come on. I'm having trouble with my, does not want to share. There we go. Is that better? Does that look more like regular Word?
Sure, yes.
But I don't want. No, is it outline? I don't want 2 pages.
Yeah, the end of view. Up there next to where it says 1 page. Go back
we
up
have
to view.
150. I'm sorry, back up here. Oh, 1 page.
You're good.
Oh, but it took my zoom out. I'm sorry, folks. Hold on. That was not helpful. This might look
great.
a little bit more like what everyone has, and hopefully, since I didn't get to demo, what was the one that didn't work? Yeah, okay. I just couldn't use the cut. It's all here, whereas before it wasn't showing up there. So I just wanted to look a little bit more, but sorry, go ahead.
Okay, that's great. Now you notice the menu is open here on top. It's still open. If you want to make it go away, you just go up and click on the menu heading again. So if you click on home again, it'll close. No, okay, or go over to the right.
It's this one. It's collapse the ribbon.
On the right.
Yeah, and then you can open it this way.
Yeah.
And then you can pin it back in place. Like if you don't like it kind of popping in and out, you can pin it back.
Right. So let's close it for now. Now, so we did a cut and paste, and sometimes we don't want to cut and paste, we want to copy and paste. So you can do the same thing. You can, let's just copy something small. You can copy Dear Mom. So we'll highlight Dear Mom, and then maybe go down in between the 2 paragraphs. So we'll copy it, and then click between the 2 paragraphs and paste it there. So you see, we copied it and we pasted it. We still have the original and we have a copy. Sometimes, you know, if you are, maybe you're writing an invitation or something and you're printing multiple copies on a page. So you write the first one and then you copy it and then you paste it underneath as many times as you want. Once you copy it, you can paste it as many times as you want. So, so cut and paste, very useful. Let's Control Z and get rid of that extra Dear Mom. And let's see. We also, let's talk a little bit about spacing and formatting. So we have the home menu open now, and in the middle of it, where it says, well, let's do fonts first. So you can see up in that, yeah, here are the fonts. So you can pick the font that you want, the size that you want, and you can also do things like bold, italic, underline, etc. So let's highlight that first paragraph. And we'll just play around with the fonts a little bit. So let's go back up to the home menu. And if you click on that arrow, the down arrow next to the fonts where it says Calibri, okay, we can do size first. So you can change the size with that bar. And you can also change the actual font with this one. And you've got a ton of fonts. And as you scroll down, it's going to show you what they look like. So if you pick Algerian, it's going to look very exotic. Yeah, and there are a whole bunch of. Now, one thing is that this depends a little bit on your computer setup. Some of these things depend on you know, how your computer's set up, how many fonts you have. Some other things can vary a little bit. So you may not have all of these fonts on your particular installation. A lot of them are pretty standard. So you can change the font, you can change the size. You can also make it bold by clicking on that B and click it again to unbold. You can make it italics by clicking on the I and unclick it. You can make it underlined and so on. You can also, let's not do the whole thing here. Let's just highlight a one word.
Oops.
And yeah. Now, again, you can use that menu. You can also use the keyboard shortcuts. So you won't be able to see, but if you type Control B, it'll bold. If you type Control I, it'll underline. If you type Control U, sorry, if you try Control U, it'll underline. If you type Control I, it'll italic. And if you type it again, it'll undo. So again, I tend to use those just because that's the way I learned it, and it's a little quicker than using the menus. The other thing you can do is right-click on that highlighted word, and you get the same menu right there. So now you can change the fonts, you can change the bold, the underline, etc. And again, it's a quick way to get to that menu. So there's three ways to do everything. Do whichever one works for you. Just one other thing, in case, I don't know, I tend to use this because I'm an engineer, but you can also do subscript and superscript. Yeah, so that'll be superscript. Yeah, so you see right there, June 1st, that actually happens automatically, but if you go ahead and click it.
Oh, let me highlight.
Well, just highlight one letter down below, just to see, like, and yeah, and see if it'll. So you see it superscripted it, which means it makes it up high like that. Click it again to make it go back to normal.
Oh, sorry.
And then, or yeah, either way. So if you're doing, scientific work, you need to do that. That's where the subscript and superscript is. You can also, let's make it go back. There we go. You can also change the font color over on the right. If you want to have all your writing be green or blue or yellow, whatever. And you can either use the preset colors or you can use this fancy color palette and pick from a zillion colors. But, if you want to type something in red to make it, know that it's important, you just highlight it and then go to that, that drop down right there, and you can change the color. I think it's still set for black, so you need to use the arrow, or maybe it's just my eyes. Oh, it is, yeah. I'm not very good at some colors.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it has to be yellow or I can't tell. So we can just, again, we can set it back, or we can do just Control Z to undo it. So now I mentioned that Word will help us with our spelling. And as you look at this document, you'll see that some words are underlined. And some of them have a squiggly underline, and some of them have a solid underline. So for example, and so the squiggly underline means the word thinks it's spelled wrong, which in this case it is. And so I think if you right-click that word, maybe it will give you a suggestion. Yeah, it says, I think this should be with 2 T's. So you can just click on that and it will help you. The next one is a solid underline. So it says there's something else wrong. In this case, there are 2 spaces in between. So let's try. It gives you, says remove extra space. Okay, we can click on that and it will help you. Same, next one, bookstores. I think should be 1 word. So you can do that. Etc. File clerk. Now, you can also go, oh, I guess there was a space. Let's go up to the, wait, before you do that, let's go up to the review menu. And you can see over on the left, it says spelling and grammar. And so in this, if you have a long document, you might not want to have to search through to find every place that's identified as a spelling error. So if you go here, it will take you to each one. So spelling, it took you to the next misspelled word, which is library. And it's nice that that one was put in here. And so now we can have that one fixed. And then it's saying, there's something else wrong in the sentence. It's underlined. If we click there, it'll probably tell us to add a comma. Yeah, you can see up in the right hand, it's prompting us to what the issues are. So we can.
So Joel, this next one is the word ends, ENDS is underlined, and Word is suggesting that we change it to the singular because of noun verb agreement. But actually, like if you were to read this through, it's actually the pronoun that should be singular. So that's where I just want to remind everyone that don't just randomly, without thinking about it, click all of the suggestions, because it's not, especially for grammar, it's not always going to know what you meant. So this one I would probably like ignore it and then fix it out here. It ends.
And just fix it.
Yeah, right. I can resume.
Yeah, and then there's one more misspelling.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a recipe, sorry. Yeah. And So Word is telling us that we completed our spelling and grammar check.
Yeah.
But if you add more, you would want to run it again. And I'm also seeing like right under here is a mistake that it didn't find. Like there's no space between the question mark and the W, which normally you would expect to see. So
yeah,
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect, either in finding everything or finding all the right things.
Mhm.
So, but it's a big help. And
Yeah.
so let's go back up to review again and see what else is there. It has word count over on the left. So if you have an assignment, you have to write 1,000 words on something. This will help you do that. You can also highlight a section. So this is telling you what's in the whole document. You can also highlight a section and do a word count if you're looking for something more specific. So, so again, for students, that can be pretty important. The other thing that's up there is the thesaurus. And so if you click on a word, let's click on long.
Long, okay. Uh-huh.
And then go back up to review and click on the thesaurus. And you'll see on the right, it gives you a bunch of synonyms, and whether they're adjectives or verbs. So there's long could mean an adjective, it could be a verb. And if you like one of these, but it's not quite right, you can click on that word, whatever, and then it will give you, and then the down arrow, and it'll, okay, you can, that's right, you can insert it. Sometimes it will actually give you different options.
Oh wait, it did, right?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, so you can go through a lot of words trying to find the right one, which is convenient sometimes. So let's see. I think that's, well, we'll come back to some other review things later. I want to talk about line spacing and paragraphs. So let's highlight that whole first paragraph and go back up to the home menu. And in the paragraph section, actually, it's a little easier to see if you right-click on the paragraph down below, and click on paragraph. And now you've got a couple different things here, but down on the right, yeah, you see line spacing. And it says right now we're doing 1.15. So it's a little bit more than single spaced. So let's change it to single space. You can either use the down arrow, okay, and click OK, or you can use the menu. So let's do, I don't know that we changed it.
I don't know either.
Let's do it again.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I said it did.
Okay, yeah. So
It's so small.
The difference between 1 and 1.15 is not a lot. But let's go to double space. And you can see that's a big change. But you can go anywhere in between. Let's go back to where we were. 1.15 is just a little bit roomier than single spaced, and it's not unusual. Yeah, you have to type it in. Just gives it a little bit more space. It's not unusual for people to use that. The other thing is the space before and after a return. So remember, when we went to the up before, when we typed after the date and Dear Mom, it put a space after the line. And that's down here under spacing, and you see it says before a return 0 points and after 10 points. So points is just a measure of space on the page. If you went back and changed that after to 0. So you could either type it or use the down arrow and then click OK.
Wow.
It didn't do anything. And here's why. Because remember what I said, before you do anything in Word, you have to select it. So let's select everything on that first page.
We do select, nope.
No, just drag it, yeah. And now we'll go back to paragraph.
So if you want, you can go home and then this little arrow will give you the same thing as right clicking. It's sort of your choice.
Yeah. So change that to 0 and click OK. And you see it took out those extras. Now the one in between the 2 paragraphs is an actual space, as an actual line return. And actually, before we do anything, let's go back up to home and click on the paragraph mark over by paragraph. No, the mark.
Oh, sorry.
Next to the A through B sort, yeah. So you see, now it's actually showing you where you have your carriage returns, which sometimes you can't tell. So in between the 2 paragraphs, there was still a space, even though we took out that 10 points after, because there's an actual carriage return there. So let's delete that carriage return. Oh, well, we didn't talk about deleting. So if you want to delete something, let's go down to the carriage return at the bottom of after I love your daughter. So if you click after it,
here,
one line down.
Okay.
So if you're in front of the thing you want to delete, then you use the delete button. So you can do that. And if you want to delete the thing that's behind where you are, you use the backspace button. So we deleted the thing that was behind daughter. Might be easier to
here
show with some actual letters. Before we do that, what?
So if I put my cursor after the R and I'm using the backspace button, it's going to delete daughter backwards.
Exactly. And then since we didn't want to do that, we can retype it, or we can do Control Z, and it won't leave out the H.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, that's important. The other thing is, if you highlight a word, and then push delete, it'll delete the whole word. Control Z to bring it back. Or anything else. You can highlight a whole paragraph. You can highlight a whole page and delete an entire page or an entire chapter of your document. And then before you panic, just remember Control Z will bring it back. So.
And if it's hard to remember all the controls, you have it up here also. This is
right.
undo and this is redo. So I can redo to the delete and then undo it.
Right, yeah. So let's go back to the paragraph thing and go back to where we were.
Okay, up here.
Yeah. And open that paragraph box again.
Did you want me to highlight anything? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Highlight that whole section.
The whole thing. Okay. Whoops.
Great. And then we'll just go back to where we were. We'll put in the 10 point. You could also, you could do 6 points after, or 5 points, whatever. But that's fine. Okay, now let's go down to the end here. We should put a return before love your love, and then your daughter, one before your daughter. You can, we're not going to do it today, but you can insert a signature in your document. If you have an electronic signature, you could space down your daughter a bit and then put a signature in there. So I would like, up at the top, the date, to me, should be over on the right side. Now, we could go to the beginning and put in a bunch of spaces to move it over, but that's not the best way. We could use the tab key and move it over like that. And if you want to move it to some place in the middle or not all the way to the right, the tab key would be a good choice. The other thing you can do is change the alignment. So everything here is left aligned or left justified. But we could select that date and go back up to the home. And right there, you see we have left justified, centered, right justified, and completely justified both sides. So let's just right justify the date. So that took care of that. Now let's highlight that first paragraph. And just for fun, we will do the right justified, the fully justified. I can't remember what the right word for that is.
So for a paragraph, you just have to have the cursor in the paragraph. So if I right justify it, like I have my cursor in the middle of bin right here, but I can right justify the whole paragraph, which
actually, can you do the last option there?
Yeah.
No.
This one?
That, yeah. So this is something that a lot of times is in books, and it was very hard to do on a typewriter. So when we first had word processors, everybody wanted to do this kind of fully justified text. But one thing about it is sometimes it makes the spacing a little weird so that everything lines up, and the graphic designers tend to say, just do left justified like we always did. It's your choice. It's more of a design issue, but you do have the choice. Let's put that back to left justified, and let's turn off the paragraph marks. Yeah, great. Okay. So we've done a little design work on this, and of course you can center something as well. Sarah centered the paragraph for a second, but if you have a title, you can use the center justification to center it. There are a few other things up here which we're not going to talk about, but just to let you know, there's bullets and indenting, a few other things.
Actually, we can cover bullets. That's why we have the recipe.
Okay, great.
So basically, there's oh, I don't did I delete it? Oh yeah. So the idea would be that there would be bullets and then numbers, like there's different reasons for different things.
Yeah. Why don't we just make up some bullets here? I think the recipe doesn't necessarily lend itself to bullets so much, but let's just go back up to the letter and just type a little list in between the paragraph. Return, and we'll just say dogs. Yeah, you can do that.
Shampoo, towel, snacks. What else do we want to take? Book, whatever.
Okay, so now we can just highlight that list and go up to the home page again. And so first thing we could do is bullets. Or if we wanted a numbered list, we could use the next option. And then if you use the down arrow, you can, if you go back to bullets, yeah, use the down arrow. There are choices. You can have different bullet items, whatever. So, and it will do second level bullets. So if you go to click on shampoo, or yeah, and go to the beginning of shampoo and hit the tab key.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's because it's the first one. Whoops, sorry, my mistake.
There you go.
I think it's,
yeah. So you can do a second level bullet and third, whatever. And depending on which one you choose, the second and third levels would be different.
Right. So you could do, whoops, sorry, clothes, and you could say shirt, pant, oops. And then these are types of clothes. So you can put them underneath clothes.
So one more thing in terms of formatting that you might want to look at is margins. So we would go up to the layout menu. And over on the left, you see margins. And you have some presets there. So normal is 1 inch all around. Let's just pick narrow as an example. And you see it gives you very narrow margins. And since everything gets reorganized, it means you can fit a lot more on the page because it's leaving more space around, less space around the edges, more room in the middle for text. So it's going to change your whole layout when you do that. Let's go back to regular. You can also do at the bottom custom if you want to set something very particular. If you want, an inch on the top and bottom and half an inch on the right and a full inch on the left, you can set it for however you want. Sometimes if you're printing something, you might want a bigger margin on the inside page for the binding, etc. So, but normally people will stick with the standard margins. So I think those are most of the common things. There are a few other things on the agenda that can be helpful. One of them is track changes. So we go up to the review menu, and under tracking, turn on track changes. Just click on track changes. And you can see it's on. Because it's grayed out. Now, so this is if you're editing, if you have multiple people working on a document and you want to edit them, but you don't want to make the changes immediately, you want them to be shown, but you're going to wait until later to decide whether to keep them or not. Can you go back up to the review menu for a second?
Mm-hmm.
And you see next to it, it says all markup. So that means whatever you change, it's going to show. And so we'll just look at what that's like. So let's go back to the text. And did you just do that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how well it shows up through screen sharing, but I typed the word Alexandria, so it appears in red and underline, and it says Sarah Campany inserted this, and it gives the date.
And also on the left, there's a line that indicates there's a change in this line. Sometimes if you do something small, like you add a punctuation mark, you might not see it right away, but the line on the left will do that there's something there. And if you then delete Arlington, because you've written in Alexandria, it puts it in strikeout. So anything that you add will be in red and underlined, and everything you delete will be in strikeout. So when you when you are reviewing this edited document, you can see what's changed. Now, if there are a lot of changes, it starts to get very distracting to read. So if you go back up to the review menu, and then where instead of all markup, you say simple markup. Yeah. Then you see what it did is it keeps the lines to show you that there was a change there, but it doesn't show where the changes are. So it's easier to read the edited text, but you don't see exactly where the changes are. And again, if you have 5 different people editing a document, sometimes it just gets so messy that you have to turn it off to see. Also, when you're showing all the changes, you might miss, that there was a space missing, or so when you show it this way, you can make sure that it looks right, like that space there, right? We might not have noticed that there was a space before the period, but when we turn off the track change or the viewing, it's easier to see. Now, when we've done that, let's go back to full markup. Now, the next thing is, well, okay, I see these edits, and now what do I want to do about them? Again, there are a couple ways to do it. One is you can go down to the edited word. If you go down to Alexandria and right-click on it, it'll give you the choice of accepting or rejecting the insertion. So let's accept it. The other way you can do is go back up to the review menu, and where it says accept, there's a menu. Actually, well, 2 things. I'm sorry, go back down and click on Arlington and go back there. So now if you just click accept, it'll do it. If you click the arrow underneath accept, then it will give you the choice to move through the document. So if you have a document that's got a ton of edits in it, you can do this and it will automatically take you through each one and then allow you to either accept or reject each change. Or if you've looked at them all and you're happy with all of them, you can just hit the accept all changes and it'll just update everything, took out that last one. So that's great. Again, if you're working with other people, while we're talking about it, let's just do one other thing, which is comments. So there's the comment box. If you click on that, it adds a little comment box on the side, and you can type in here, I think we should do this differently, or some little comment that you might have. And then if somebody else comes along and they say, no, I think this is right, they can use the reply button.
Well, I'm replying to myself, but.
And then you can click the resolve button next to it, which says, grays it out, says we've addressed this. And then you can also, of course, right click on it and remove the comment.
Oh. I can? Wait.
Yeah, delete comment.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah. And you can remove them up in the menu as well. So again, if you're working with somebody else on a document, that's very helpful.
So Joel, I just want to say that I'm going to confess to using comments with myself. So if I'm working on a document and I'm working along and then there's a place and I'm like, oh, okay, this, and I'll like go in and add a comment and say like, research this more or something. It's a note to myself, basically.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll even use it for myself, even if I'm not working with someone else, just because I want to make sure I come back to it later or whatever the situation is, or get information from Joel here or whatever I need to do.
Yeah, that's right. And another good way to do that is to highlight the text. So if you select some text and then go up to the home menu, and then right there is the highlighter, and you can change the color or just click on the yellow. And that's another way to remind yourself that, oh, right, there was something I was going to look up here that I forgot about. And then you can go back and if you highlight it again.
Oops, sorry.
And then go back and to the review, the home, and tell it to there.
So
Yeah.
when you print your document, if you're printing a document, if you highlight text, it's just like a font change. You're going to see it in the printed document. If you have main comments in the document to each other, you're not going to see those unless you specifically indicate that you want to see comments on your printed document. So just keep that in mind if you are using those features, because they work a little differently on the printed version of your document.
Speaking of which, let's talk about printing for a second. We won't actually print it, but printing is under that same menu as saving. And of course, we've been saving the document constantly, but we go back up to home and then down to print. And then we'll get the print menu, which depends to some extent on what your printer is. But you have, similar options as you have in printing, again, depending on what printer you have. But you can print all the pages, you can print only the page you're looking at, or some number of pages. Again, a lot of this has to do with your individual printer, so I won't go into it a lot. One thing I'll note, though, is you notice where the printer selection is, it says Microsoft Print to PDF. If you want to, sometimes people are like, how do I convert my Word document to a PDF? It's a little confusing because it's actually in the print menu, not in some other place where you might think of like a save or something. It's in the print menu. You set your printer to print a PDF and then hit print, and then it will actually come up and ask you where you want that PDF saved to, which is important because it'll hang up until you tell it where to go, so to speak.
Right.
And then it will save a PDF. So that's a good thing to know as well.
So just as a use case, like for example, if you're applying for a job and you have a resume, your best practice would be to submit it as a PDF unless they've given you other instructions, because then it's going to look exactly the way that you want it to when they open the document. So if you type it in Word and then they use a different version of Word, it could look a lot different, possibly, than you had indicated it, because their formatting might be different. So that's why you might want to save to PDF. Actually, Joel, we have a question. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we print in a larger type than the original document?
Well, if you want
rid of my comment.
if you want it to be bigger, then change the font.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want it to be bigger, change the font and print it. And if you don't want to save it that way, then just undo or change it back after you print it. Now, you can print on, let's turn off.
I know, I realized, I'm like, what am I doing? Let me get off. Let me accept all changes, turn off track changes.
Just click on it.
There we go. Okay.
So you can just change everything to a big font. And I had a colleague who had, unfortunately, macular degeneration. His eyesight was bad. And so he had a huge monitor And all his documents he kept in a huge font. And he would change them before he sent them to anybody else. But one time he forgot to change it, and another of my colleagues opened up the document and he shocked him because everything was enormous. And he almost fell off his chair. So you can do that, but just remember to change it to where you want it to be when you're done. Now you can change, you know, your letter size, your page size here.
Right.
And if you had a printer that would print large format paper, you could do that and change the font size to match. Some office printers especially will print 16 by 20 paper. So there's a lot of possibilities.
So the standard ones are letter size, which is here, your legal size, which is the same width, but it's just a little longer, and then the tabloid size, which are fairly standard. I mean, maybe not at your home, but like in an office environment.
Right. And then the A ones are metric size, European size paper, which sometimes comes up. Now, I don't have the syllabus right in front of me. I remember one other thing we were going to talk about was hyperlinks, which
yeah.
I'm not sure if that's super important, but is there anything else either and someone has a question about, or Sarah, that you think we need to cover? We've covered a lot of stuff, let me say.
Yeah.
Normally, when we do this, people are trying it out, so we go a little slower. So I've thrown a ton of stuff at you, and if you've been able to absorb it all, you're amazing. But I guess the recording will be available so you can listen to it again.
So people do ask about the hyperlinks, and so I can just do real quick. Since I opened so many tabs, let me just do the library.
So, you know, the hyperlink is if you want to click on something and have, obviously it only works for an online document. It won't work for a printed document. But if you copy the URL, can you just go back for a second, Sarah?
Yeah, of course.
So you need to copy the web address from your browser bar, and you can copy just the way you did in Word. You can right-click or Control-C and copy. And now go back to the document. And let's highlight library. And I think you can actually right-click or use the menu. Yeah, so it says link. And down there where it says address, now you want to paste it. You can either Control-V or right-click and paste that link in there. And now you see it comes up blue with the underline to show that it's a link.
So if I emailed this letter to someone, they could click on this. If you are literally printing a letter and mailing it to your mom, this isn't going to help. So if you were going to actually mail something, you would want to just literally put the web address as is in there, and it will still be linked. It'll just be written out.
Right. And that way somebody could copy it if they wanted to.
Right. But people do ask about that. The other thing, Joel, that we
Hold on, somebody had a question. I think Anita had a question about that. She said, could we go over that again? So I'm not sure which part, but maybe if you could just do the copy and paste to the hyperlink again.
Yeah, of course. So this is just the library's website, but I can go like to a different page, for example. This is really long, sorry. So I clicked on it. I'm going to right click copy or Control-C. It's your choice. Control copy. Go back to my document. In my document, I don't see library again, but for example, I'll do, and it can be more than one word. So it could be this phrase. Highlight where you want to put your link, right click, go to link. The default isn't looking whatever, and I'm going to put the address in. So it's displaying text doing, I'm sorry, displaying doing chores, and it's linking to this web address. And there it is, which hopefully going to the library is not a chore, but anyway, there you go. So it works the same in email. So it's a kind of useful thing to know, because if you're doing anything electronically, which you're probably doing right now since we're all at home, you can do it in email. And it's also fine to, like I said, just paste it out. It's just some URLs are so long. I don't know if you've ever gotten an email where it's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 lines of like a link, and it's really annoying. So that's a way you can get around it. And let us know if we didn't answer your question or you want us to go over it again. And I think the other thing, we talked about copy paste, but sometimes when you copy, I don't know how often you guys have done this, but you get like the formatting is really weird, and it happens a lot when you copy from a website because it's got a lot of formatting in it. And you can copy and paste pictures. So I'm going to grab this one, for example. You want to send that in your letter. I highlighted a picture and letters, and I'm going to copy it. And I don't know why you would want to do this, but make myself a little space. And see, this first option is you're keeping the formatting, which is really big, merging formatting and getting rid of it. So I'll just keep the formatting. Of course, it's really big. Sorry to shrink that down, or it's not going to look good at all. But you can copy images into your document.
You know, when you paste it,
Let me get rid of that.
Yeah, undo it. Get rid of that. When you right click and you see the paste options, do the one, well, if there's one that looks like a picture, it works better.
I think it's because I grabbed the text too, but I can go back.
Yeah.
Let me go, sorry. I'm just going to grab a picture.
Yeah, if you can right click it and just right click it and right click it and choose copy image. And then when you right click,
picture.
Yeah, there you go. When you paste things, there are often multiple options, especially, for example, if you're pasting something from Excel, if you're pasting a graph from Excel, if you just do a simple paste, it will actually allow you to modify the graph. You can change the data, change the headings, and so on, which is nice, but it takes up more room in your document. And if you paste a lot of graphs in that format, it'll increase the size of your document. If you paste it in as a picture, it doesn't take up as much room, but then you can't change it. So if you're pasting things from other places, there's some trade-offs.
Right. So if you're not comfortable with the right click, you can use this menu. It gives you the other paste options. Whoops, sorry, I don't want to paste it again. But just so you know, when you're copying, pasting, if things aren't looking the way you want them to, this may be where you need to go to get it looking the way you want it to look.
And the other thing is the text wrapping, that little box next to the picture with the horseshoe in it.
I did not put it in the middle of text here.
Yeah.
Oops.
Well, you can just move it.
Okay, so there's text.
So, yeah. So you can have it just be in line with Yeah, see, if you choose text wrapping, then it will drag it up into the middle of the paragraph, then it will really be clear.
Yeah.
So you can put it wherever you want and the text will wrap around it. Or,
And
you
you
know,
can try
there are some
different
different
things.
ways you can play around with them. Yeah.
And if you really feel like you've made a big mistake, don't forget your undo.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like we have 10 minutes left. So unless Joel, there's something else you would like to cover, if you guys have questions, please either add them to the chat or the Q&A. We're happy to answer them. And we also are happy to read, go over something if we didn't cover it clearly the first time.